What's up, guys, and welcome back for another solo mining episode 96, getting pretty close to that 100. Now, the comment that kind of, set the topic for this episode was one I saw about a week ago, about 5 days ago, but it reads, they have more trouble getting their ships to their destination after they buy them. It amazes them how they can go through a system empty when they come through with a pod, and then when they come through with an orca, a gang just kind of jumps on them the moment they get in system. Now, obviously, when you're traveling with a ship, a lot is RNG, depending on like who's active in the area. This sounds to me a lot like you were followed, especially if you're coming from a trade hub, especially JITA. The players, the ships that are on these gates that are 2 or 3 jumps away from the hub, they're watching these gates. Their whole purpose in life is to look for targets. They're out there ship scanning. They're out there looking at how you're warping in, or what you're doing, or how long it takes you to warp after you drop gate cloak, which direction you're going. Their job is to just look for targets, relay that information, and then the fleet commander makes a decision on whether or not to pursue you. So that's why I tell people, when you're traveling, never use autopilot. It's very, very easy to tell if you're autopiloting. You'll come out, if you're landing on a gate, you'll be 12-15k out, and you'll slow burn all the way in before you jump. They can see that. They know exactly what's happening, and that gives them a lot of time to engage you. They might not engage you in that system, but if they can get a good idea of the direction you're going, especially in an orca, your orca is pointing in the direction you're going to go, they're going to see what gate you're heading towards. So if they're in fast tackle ships or in faster ships, they can be ahead of you before you know it. And by the time you land on gate, even if you're not autopiloting, by the time you land on gate and jump through, they're already on the other side waiting for you. And that's one thing is, whenever I buy an orca, a big ship or something like that, and I need to travel it away from JITA or away from a market hub, I take my time. I don't try to go to get to my destination as fast as possible. And that's a lot of just normal defense stuff. Even when you're just operating normally in a system, making yourself a hard target, making yourself unpredictable. There are times where I'll jump into a system, and then I'll go to a NPC structure and hang out for 20 minutes, and then I'll make another jump, and it just depends on what the vibe I feel in the systems that I'm going through and kind of how I feel. In most cases, I'm able to just kind of get there. And when you're in bigger ships, you gotta realize too is that you need to start using travel fits. Whenever I buy anything that's slow, like an orca, or higher that has to be gated, that doesn't have like a jump drive, even things with jump drives, you need a travel fit on that thing. So you can have your orca fitted for you can buy your orca fitted for drone mining or for boosting, but it's probably a better idea to move that fit in like a crane or a blockade runner or something smaller. Get that fit over to your destination, and then outfit that orca with inert stabilizers, with a micro warp drive. Use the micro warp drive trick. I did a video on that, how to really fast align between gates, and just be like super tanky. So now, like, if you're leaving JITA with this new orca, then if you're being ship scanned, they see that you are tanked to the teeth. That's gonna be like, okay, well, that's not what we normally see, and that might be an indicator not to pursue. Or if they're watching you use a micro warp drive trick every time you drop gate cloak, then they know that they have very little time to engage you, and you have a lot of tank. You're making yourself less appealing, right? If you leave JITA or any market hub with a drone fit, where you're mainly drone yield and all that stuff, and you're not full tank, then yeah, it's going to be easier for them to make a judgment call in attacking you and stuff like that. And when you start getting more and more progressed in EVE, and you start getting into bigger ships, you'll start to learn that avoiding gating ships is really nice. You have a lot more options of unpredictability when you start getting into ships with jump drives and things like that. It's a different strategy, but essentially with a jump drive, you can go in any direction, and it's hard for them to predict, as long as you're not being too obvious with kind of what you're doing. And that's kind of the strategy there. Is like, I don't like gating ships anymore. If I can, even in nullsec or even whatever, I will, even if I'm only moving like a couple of jumps to mine like an ice belt or something, I'll take the Rorqual, I'll conduit jump the entire fleet, alts and everything over, just to avoid. I'll use those materials that, that's jump fuel and stuff, just to save myself the headache, because it's much quicker to get the whole fleet over a couple jumps. Gating is just, it's a known choke point, it's a known route that people can camp, and it's just, it invites so much problems into the whole situation and everything. But that was the main comment I saw on the channel that I really wanted to address. Traveling, the biggest draw from that, I can tell you, it's like there's no magic trick I can tell you to like cure all your travel needs. It's really based up with RNG. Also, I don't normally buy expensive ships and move them right after I buy them. I also don't normally do anything crazy risky like that if it's kind of prime time, if there's a lot of players. So weekends, I usually don't play a whole lot on the weekends anyway, which I think is why I kind of avoid a lot of ganking or ship losses. But also, if you are really kind of hesitant about moving something, especially if you're jumping stuff like a jump freighter or moving a lot of assets, it's also a good strategy just to, like, once the daily reset happens, jump on, make that first couple of jumps out of Jita, before everybody kind of gets logged in and set back up. Another good strategy to use there and everything. And just don't get in a hurry, be patient. There's no need to, you'd rather get the ship there to your destination as soon as possible rather than really fast, really, because it's just gonna, if you lose it, you're just gonna have to go spend more risk and then go through the whole fucking mess again, right? But situational awareness is important. And since situational awareness defense is kind of like the topic of this episode, the footage you're going to see in this video is actually me mining in a system with an active Garista's Pirate Stronghold. And that's just to illustrate that if you were paying attention to your surroundings and you're paying attention to D-scan and you're paying attention to who's in local, you can do more riskier things. And that's one reason why having a prospect is nice. Having different classes of ships for different situations. Now, normally I wouldn't probably take a Mackinac out with an active Stronghold because those NPC mining ships can just change belts sporadically. We're sitting close to our max range on our lasers with this prospect, so if something like that does happen and those pirate miners come in, then I can just cloak and get off. Because if they come on grid, then they're just going to they're going to settle, and then they're going to immediately warp off, and then they're going to call the response fleet, and you'll be toast. But there's no reason why, if you're paying attention, that you can't go out in a prospect. And if you're in a new system that you haven't mined in before, then mining in something that's a little bit quicker to get off grid is probably a good idea. If it's a system that you've known, you kind of know the people in local, you can kind of you've cased the area, kind of what's going on, that's when you would take an Orca, or maybe some more expensive fleet setup or something like that. But the other question I saw was kind of along the same lines: is how do you manage risk for getting ganked in high sec? And I feel like I've covered that already. And that's just making yourself a hard target, making yourself unpredictable. Don't push the envelope too much. If you don't know a lot of the names in local, or if you don't know what's happening in D-scan, if it looks fishy, then go to a prospect or mine in a different system, or just don't offer yourself up as a target if you don't have to, right? But hopefully this video kind of answers the travel question. Just get used to using travel fits, tank to the teeth, use the micro warp drive trick that helps you get off the gate so much quicker, and just make yourself not a good opportunity target for small gang fleets and stuff like that. And sometimes it won't matter. Sometimes small gangs will just see an Orca and they'll just jump on it, and if they do and you're super tanked, then chances are Concord will kill most of them because they didn't assess the situation. But most of the time when you're leaving Jita, you're being watched like a hawk. Just keep that in mind, you're always being watched. But Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.